Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. I have been so excited for this conversation with actress Kelly Bishop. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
Oh, well, we appreciate your time. I thoroughly enjoyed your new book, The Third Gilmore Girl. And as a huge Gilmore fan, it's just an absolute pleasure to meet you and have this conversation. I learned a lot about you from this book. You were very honest, and it was really a wonderful read. Why did you decide to write this book now?
Well, it had been suggested to me through the years, and I kept avoiding it and just letting it go. And then a media company came to me with my agent, and we had a nice meeting. They pitched the idea of doing a book again. But they, because they know what they're doing, I mean, they said, we can help you find a publisher. We can help you find a co-writer if you'd like one. I said I would. And so they were able to talk me down the whole thing. And I thought, well, you know what? They're making it so pleasant. I found a woman I just really enjoyed talking to, my co-writer. She was on the coast. She was in California. So I didn't meet her in person at all.
Oh, okay.
Um, and we had a lot of fun talking on the telephone for a year and a half. And it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed doing it. Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful book and we enjoyed reading it. I learned a lot about your early career and you started out as a dancer and a well-respected dancer. Can you talk a little bit about the how you were one of the original cast members for a chorus line?
Well, as it's in the book there that it was the whole idea started as this sort of experimental workshop as to whether all these dancers could get together and perhaps form some sort of a company where we could explore other facets of the business. But Michael Bennett, the legendary Michael Bennett, got wind of it and popped himself right in there. And Michael Bennett had a way of taking over everything. So he got in there, he taped it. We had a long session overnight one night, and he taped the whole thing. And we just kept going and pouring our hearts out. And it was very inspiring and amazing. We learned so much about each other. And it kind of grew from there. Michael Bennett created a little workshop, and then the workshop turned into rehearsals, and on it went until it became a chorus line.
When I say you're a dancer, you study ballet, which is, you talk about being very different than studying different forms. Do you think being a studying ballet helped you with your career in acting?
Absolutely. I think that besides the discipline ballet in particular takes, but there's other forms of dance, and I'm not dismissing them, but
Right,
ballet
right,
is
right.
just terribly hard, takes a long time to master anything. And so, first of all, you have the discipline, you have the concentration, but then after you've danced, you have the body language, and body language can say so much on a stage and then eventually in front of a camera, but it's probably more important on the stage. So you can carry that with you. And I always tell dancers that, move on. It's only going to help you. I know of one dancer who was in a chorus line. She didn't continue her career as a dancer, but she ended up, I saw her a year later, and she had joined Clinique, the cosmetic company, and she was working internationally for them. And I'm going, my God, this was somebody who was so shy she could hardly speak, and now she's a power. So I think you can take that whole show business performance kind of thing with you, and take it into any field you're in.
Yeah, I took dance when I was younger, like 4 to 14, and started with ballet. And there is some kind of a, I don't know, I felt like a control, like you have some kind of control of things when you're in ballet. I don't know. Do you get the feeling from that?
Yes, you really have to because as you know, since you really studied ballet seriously as a kid, I remember to this day the I when I finally mastered the rond de jambe en l'air, and there's just it's a very subtle thing, but and nobody else would understand what this is unless they took ballet. But it was years. I mean, I could do it, But when I finally got that little circle going on my leg, and I went, that's it, I found it, So the whole time you're studying ballet, you're learning something new, and of course, getting so mad at yourself because you're not perfecting it, and looking in the mirror and trying to get it right. And of course, it's intriguing. If you must have loved ballet as much as I did, it was just my world. It was everything to me. So, so glad I had that.
What was it like the 1976 Tonys? You won the Tony, a chorus line. I think you started it and finished the show. Was that a surreal experience?
It was amazing because the one thing, and I even said it when I accepted my Tony, I had worked at the Schubert Theater several times, and actually most of the work I did on Broadway was at the Schubert Theater, so it felt like home. And to be in that space, and then when we did the broadcast for the Tony Awards, we did the opening number of a chorus line as the opening. And we did the closing number of a chorus line as the closing. And it was just sort of like a great gift to us. And of course, the audience was wildly enthusiastic. And I hadn't even factored in that I was going to win the Tony. So it was, yeah, it was magical, completely magical.
I love the story of you and your friend, Priscilla Lopez. Can you share a little bit about how that went? Just the rooting that you all did for each other in that moment.
Well, we were such good friends, and you can imagine in a company it's a very competitive business all the way around, show business. And so I think there were probably more than a couple of people hoping that this would destroy our friendship, since she was nominated and I was nominated. And they were kind of watching to see it happen, and it didn't. I mean, I thought she was going to win. Everybody thought she was going to win. I would hear things like, Priscilla's going to win, but I voted for you. Things like that, which is nice. But so I was just putting my head together to say, I'm going to be the most gracious loser in the world. I'm not going to take anything away from her. It's going to be her night. It's fabulous. And of course, that's not the way it turned out. As it turns out, we were both going to the same therapist, a psychologist. And as I talked to him after the whole thing, he said, the reason you were able to maintain the friendship is you both gave each other permission to win. And that's exactly what we did. And we were close, close to this day. We're very, very close friends. You know.
That's such
That's
a good example. I just think what a great example for people. And a lot of times I feel like people, especially women, they pit women against each other. And that story just was such a good example of you're just rooting for each other.
Yeah, women do have a problem like that. And I mean, I remember from when I was a child in the 50s, it was probably worse. Um, we're very gullible when it comes to having people make us competitive with each other, either over a fella or something else. And instead of just taking our own lives and our own friendships and not worrying about what other people say. I think it's because women are more sensitive, and I really think that's where it comes from. And we also have that terrible flaw of wanting to be nice.
Yes. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so
That's a
true.
problem.
That's so
But
true.
yeah.
So you left a chorus line. You were one of the first people to leave a chorus line. Can you talk about the difference between your desire to dance and your desire to act? Because it always seemed like acting was really where your direction was.
I think because I think any dancer understands. I don't think it was explained to us, but I think we understand. Dancers' career is a very short career, as any athlete's is. To really do your best work, whatever sport or game you're playing, it's gonna start to wane when you hit your mid 30s. You're just not gonna be able to do it as well. And you can dance beautifully on until your 50s or 60s, but you aren't gonna dance as well or as beautifully as a 20-year-old. So I wanted to make the transition. I did think I could act. I had done those little five-line parts that in musicals where they pull somebody out of the chorus and they get to have this little moment of being an actor. And it worked for me and I was good at it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to really pursue this. I'm giving myself 2 years, up or out. I either move up in the business to where I want to go, or I'm going to have to move away from it and find some other thing to do. Fortunately, it worked for me. And that was really all about, besides loving acting, it was about having a career to be able to continue to work because you're always going to need a grandmother, or not always, but and now it's been over 60 years that I've been in this business, which is just
Mhm.
amazing to me. I'm pat myself on the head. I can't believe I did it.
Yeah, it's amazing too. I think your mother had said to you about, do you want to be a star or do you want to, was it loving act? You know it better than me because you wrote
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had actually didn't say it. I don't think we even discussed it. It was more my observations,
Right.
and I remember that during the time I was referring to in the book, Marilyn Monroe was a huge star, huge, and very appealing for everyone. But I always got the feeling they were laughing at her, and I thought, she's not dumb. This is an act. She's putting this on, and she's got you all fooled. But they were so disrespectful of her. And I remember defining that in my own head is I'd rather be an actor everyone respects than a star that people laugh at. And that was the first time, but it's I've seen it happen since, and then later on in my career, I worked behind stars, and I saw all this terrible tension and worry, and of course nowadays it's even worse. They're bodyguards and all sorts of things. And I go, I no 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 no. I want a life too. I want a private life, and I want my professional life. So I really avoided that whole idea. And I'm glad I did.
And it's also helpful to come become popular and word famous when social media was not around, which was very helpful because now it just seems like people know everything you're doing.
Well, I remember my husband, who was in broadcasting and a very, very intelligent man, got a lot. And he would refer to certain people, and I won't mention their names because it would be unpleasant, but he would say they're famous for being famous.
Mhm.
And you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, I think we
I
do.
think we
Yes.
do. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of influencers are now also
Hmm.
that way, where you're not exactly sure
Indeed.
what they're doing, but they're well known.
Right.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
It's very strange.
I wanted to continue talking about your acting career. And of course, we have to touch on Dirty Dancing, which my favorite part of the story is when I obviously want you to share how you got the role, but that the producer was running up alongside you saying, well, we're not going to increase your salary. You're still going to get paid the same
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how your role changed in Dirty Dancing from what it initially was?
Well, I think I had originally been hired because I had the dance background. And you look at the story of Dirty Dancing, and Johnny is the dance teacher at the resort. And the character I was hired to play was a woman named Vivian. She's in the movie still, but she's a married woman. Her husband's not there yet, and she has designs on Johnny. And so I thought, well, I guess that's probably why they hired me. And then they called me to the location in Virginia for a 2 week rehearsal, which seemed very bizarre. You don't rehearse things in movies usually. And I thought, well, maybe we take a dance class together or something. So they want me to rehearse that. And then I get there and they're all staring at me. I mean, they have me come down to set and they're all just, talking among themselves and looking at me and then having first Jerry Orbach stand next to me and then Jennifer Grey. And I can't figure out what's going on. And then when they all had made up their mind, that's when they said to me, we've released the woman who was playing baby's mother this morning or today, whatever. And we were wondering if you would be willing to take that role. And I couldn't wrap my head around it because I didn't pay much attention to that role. I don't, and she wasn't very exciting. Uh, but the kicker was that they said if you do take it, you will start today and you will work on this film until the very end. And that had never happened to me. It rarely happens. You usually go in, you do a couple of scenes, you come back 3 weeks later, do another scene. And I wanted to have the experience of working on a film and getting to really know everyone, including the crew. So that was the intriguing thing. And then as they were going to take me up to the costume trailer and try to figure out some clothes for me because that's not what they had provided before. Um, that's when the producer came running alongside and said, "There's the pay is exactly the same." I thought, "Yeah, yeah,
I love
okay, fine.
that.
Yeah,
Oh
I
no.
love
okay,
that.
yeah."
I know. It's so interesting too because the way Dirty Dancing came about, things in your life, it seems like you wished for something or you would really want something to happen, and then it would happen. Can you talk about different incidents when things like that
Yeah.
occurred throughout your career?
It is odd, and I don't know. I mean, I feel very grateful, and frankly, I feel very lucky. I don't know how that panned out. I don't think I was just wishing for things arbitrarily that didn't happen. I was probably wishing in a sort of a realistic way. But even the one note I made in the book, there was a production of West Side Story, a dinner theater production, and had been auditioning to play Anita, which is a great part. And then I decided not to follow through with that because my husband was going out of town and the marriage was faltering and I thought I've got to go with him or this is going to fall apart. So I went with him and came back and thought, okay, it's falling apart anyway. So, and was sitting there literally in the apartment saying, I wonder what happened with that West Side Story company. Oh man, that would have been great to do. And in my memory, the phone rang immediately. It probably was a couple of days, but the phone did ring, and it was the producer of that production, and said the woman who was playing Anita was leaving, and did I want the role? And there it was, another wish, and I said yes. And then I thought he was going to have me come in on audition, and all he wanted to do is then discuss salary.
Can we go to talking about the Gilmore Girls? Because honestly, one of my favorite shows. I just thought the writing was incredible. The acting for all of you was just everything fell into place. But there were hundreds of women who were auditioning for this role. Did you realize you got it when you tried, or you were like, that's not going to happen?
Well, I realized that I did a really good audition. I worked very hard on that audition and I went in as Emily. I mean, I knew who she was. I knew what she was thinking. I knew that I really knew the lines. She always carried the pages anyway so that you don't give any indication that this is the finished performance, but this is the idea of what I'm going to do. Um, and I thought it was wonderful, but I didn't hear and I didn't hear. And my agent is, they're calling him and saying they haven't made up their minds yet. But it turns out they were really focusing on, understandably, on the two leading characters. And so they wanted to make sure they had that set before they moved on to the other characters. But of course, I didn't know that. And I started getting pretty discouraged. And then one day the phone rang and it was, yeah, you got it. And I was so thrilled. I agree with you about the writing was just amazing. It was fast, it was funny, it was so clever. The characters were so well drawn, and I think the show was beautifully cast. I wouldn't have changed any of the actors that they ended up hiring, and that's Amy Sherman Palladino. She knows what she wants, and when she wants it, that's what she's going to get, and she won't take no for an answer. So there we are all these years later.
And she really fought for you, or she knew. You said she knew when you walked in that you were the Emily.
That's that she says that she knew it that and I'm sure they were trying to get a lot of other actresses in there because it was such a good role, especially for an older actress. I was in my think my mid 50s when we started that show. Um, but that's the way she is. She knows what she wants and she's very, very bright. She's really kind of genius level as far as I'm concerned. And she was just she was gonna have it her way or no way at all. And she always does get her way because she's smart.
Yeah.
After a few episodes of taping, did you realize that this was going to be a hit, or did you have any idea the longevity of the show?
No, we really didn't. I mean, I thought it was one of the best productions of anything I'd ever done. I was just so happy to be doing it. But it was on the WB network, which was kind of limited. I mean, the only other shows on that network were, teenage shows, kind of. So if you weren't, I mean, why would you just tune in to watch this show? And plus, I think there was a lot of resistance from men because it said Gilmore Girls, so there wasn't too much interest there. And I felt that Warner Brothers did not promote us at all. They just kind of left us there. I don't think they quite understood what they had. I think they thought they just had another teenage show. Um, and I was hoping that it would last. Lauren Graham recalls a conversation we had that I had completely forgotten, where I said, one day this show is going to, people are going to rediscover this show and it's going to be a huge hit. Well, I don't remember saying that, but apparently I was terribly clever. And it is, and I just love that it's lasted like this. It's incredible. It's like a kind of magical, and I mean just the fact that it's still around,
Yeah.
and so popular, and new audiences coming in all the time. Uh, I I just find that amazing. So I'm
Yeah.
thrilled to be part of it.
Yeah, with Netflix and this whole new generation that is part of it, it is amazing that it has such lasting power. And it isn't all like what I liked about Gilmore Girls, even though it was upbeat, it wasn't a story about like rainbows and butterflies or whatever.
Mhm.
There was tension. There was the addressing a teenage pregnancy. There were things like that in there. And I don't know, I think that was very, like you said, she just is an incredible writer and creator. But then she and her husband decided to leave because of disagreements. And so can you talk a little bit about how that went in the last season?
Yeah, that last year was pretty tough for us. Now, she had a writing team. Of course, she was the head writer, but and she had a good team, but she has a unique voice. I don't think anybody has that voice. And they tried their darndest, and it was okay, but it just didn't have the energy. It didn't have the focus. And they just left because they couldn't come to an agreement on a contract. And she did tell me that the very last day, as she was taking her office to her car, and it was her last little trip to her car, she got a call from the suits, the powers that be, and said, "Okay, let's talk about this." And I can't tell you what she said, but it started with an F. And that's what she said to you and hung up on them and kept going.
Wow.
So that's our Amy, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That's a great story. That's
Yeah,
a
Yeah.
great story.
yeah.
It's just, it stands the test of time. And I think the dynamics of any family always enriches a show because there's just so much storyline that can be told between relationships. You have a very close relationship with Lauren, correct?
Very close. She really is my daughter in my heart. Yes.
Oh, wow. And what was it like working with her? They're there because I just think
Well,
she's amazing.
she is amazing. I'm glad you noticed that because I mean, not only is she gorgeous and her timing's good and her acting is wonderful, she's another one who's very, very smart. And I mean, I've done a lot of guest spots on television but I hadn't done uh I don't think I'd done a series as a regular at that point. And I was amazed at how she knew exactly what they were doing or what they should do. Exactly, I remember sitting at one point doing a scene and they were doing the master. Of course, the master is the shot of when you take the whole room, say the dining room table, and then you can do a reverse master so that you get the other side of that same conversation. And then little by little, they come in closer and closer to two or three shots or what they call coverage. And I remember Lauren saying at one point, she said, I don't know why we're doing this again because they're going to cut at this point. They're going to cut and they're going to go to that. And I'm sitting there going, she knows exactly how this whole scene is going to be structured when we see it on television, sitting there as an actor. She's just so savvy about the business. And again, as I said, very intelligent, and she's so sweet. I mean, she's not a pushover, but boy,
Yeah.
she's a loyal, good, loyal friend, and I just root for her every time she does something. I want her to get all the attention in the world.
I've actually heard about her from a acting coach that somewhere I was at a talk and this acting coach just said how wonderful she was, just brought her up. I think the acting coach was Melissa Scoff, and she brought up
Uh-huh.
Lauren Graham and said, "Oh, what she is just she walks in the room and it's just like I don't
Yeah.
know, it's like a bubbly light or something like that." Just
Hmm.
said that about her.
She's really special, and she's a very, very good actress. And I think what's happened out mainly because of Gilmore Girls is people haven't gotten a chance to see the depth of her ability because they want to see that character again. They want to see a
Right.
version of that character. She's working on a new series now. She's been shooting in Toronto. I don't know much about it, but I kind of got the feeling in talking to her, and I owe her a phone call um, that it's a little bit darker. I don't
Uh,
know if the show itself is, but her character might be a little bit darker, and I'd love to see her play that because she's very, very capable. So I don't even know the name of the show, or I would pitch it to you. I have no idea what
Well,
it
yeah.
we
is,
we
but
will definitely get in touch with her PR because we would love to have her on when it's ready to
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
air.
she's. I mean, I remember years and years ago she did a Jeopardy, a Celebrity Jeopardy. I can't remember if she absolutely won or not, but I was blown away again by all of her knowledge of the trivia of the whole thing. She's just sharp. She just collects everything, and she has had a good education anyway.
Mhm.
But she's super special. She's wonderful.
I think
Yeah.
anybody who can ping pong the script from Gilmore Girls, it's so fast paced. I would can only imagine trying to memorize those lines. But Lauren and Alexis, it was like was it like watching a ping pong match? Because for the viewer, it was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you really had to get those lines in the with Amy and Dan too, but Amy was the driving force. Is you don't ad lib, you don't throw things in, you don't fiddle around with it. You do it as written. Now that appeals to me because I worked on stage and I have great respect for writers and playwrights. I figure spend an awful lot of time on those words, even if it's a but or an and or a exclamation point or whatever it is. They write and they rewrite, and it's my job to deliver as written. So that's where working with Amy was very appealing to me because that's the way I always worked. And the other thing is I tended to go kind of fast. I was told more than once to slow down a little bit when I was on stage, and now I find myself in Gilmore Girls, and nobody told me to slow down. I just went flying through it. It was great, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
nice change.
Yeah. You know,
So,
it,
okay.
I
No,
was
no,
going to
go
say
ahead.
while you were filming that, or while you were while Gilmore Girls was being made, you were traveling back and forth, and your husband was just undergoing so many different things. How, I mean, that had to be so difficult. How, eh, I don't know. I don't know how you,
How'd you manage?
I really am trying to, how did you manage that?
Well, what I did with it when we start the season, there were resident apartments, furnished apartments, actually quite near the studio. So I'd go out with all my stuff, and I would get settled in and go to the grocery store, do all of that. But then when it came time to go back, all I had was my little rolly bag because it was basically what do we carry with us? Cosmetics. grooming products. No, a
Mhm.
whole thing of grooming products. So it became something that it was just really down to a system where, and also on that property where I was living, they had a car rental place. So I would rent the car to use when I was going down to the studio. I'd come back, I'd give the car back, I'd call and get a car to take me to the airport. And I just did it back and forth and back and forth. And well, ultimately, the other thing is with the frequent flyer miles. I was able to take us both to Europe first class.
Oh,
That's
how
yeah,
So it paid
nice.
yeah.
off. It
It
paid
is.
off.
Yeah, it was amazing reading that because I think a lot of people that aren't in the acting world think that actors, all actors, everything is just handed to them on a silver platter. But
Mm.
when we're reading in there, like, no, I was paying my own ticket, I was paying my own rental, I was, using my own money to fly back and forth. It's like, oh, it's and that was a very popular show, Gilmore Girls, and so I think that was very eye opening that you included things like that in there.
Well, when we first started, the salary was terrible. By television standards, my salary was awful. And I think it had a lot to do with that I was a New York actor. I was a theater actor. They're going, and who is she? Who is she? Why? I have a funny feeling I never asked him because I always avoid discussing salaries with my fellow actors. It's not going to make anybody feel good. I think that Ed Herman was probably making more than I was because he was established to the Hollywood community. He had done that. Franklin Roosevelt, I think it was Franklin Roosevelt thing. Currently at that point, he had a car commercial going that was running all the time. So they knew who he was. They didn't know who I was. And so they got me. And with all of that, the expense and the bad salary, I think it was about the fourth year that as the salary went up and up and up, I finally got to the fourth year and I said, that's what I should have made the first year. That's what my
Mhm.
salary should have been. But having been a theater actor and knowing how to live on a shoestring, I could put it put it away. It was still better than theater pay. Not maybe now, but it was then. So I'm just grateful for it. I mean, I accepted the reality of it. I'm certainly not going to be bitter or grouchy about the whole thing. That's what I got. And on we went, and boy, it's wonderful. I reaped the benefits of it. I'm fine.
And it's gonna Gilmore Girls just gets more and more popular. Just seems to be
Mhm.
growing to that cult status of movies or series where people love watching it or binge watching it,
Yeah.
Oh,
which
the
is
binge watching. People talk to me about that all the time, especially during the COVID, the shutdown.
oh, sure.
That's when people really started doing it. But I've been doing a little mini book tour, and I keep hearing this, I mean, about new people watching it again or going back and watching it. Three different people recently told me that every fall, and these are not people who know each other, every fall they sit down and binge watch the entire show. But I don't know why it's in the fall. Maybe it's cold outside or something, but they just keep coming and some woman said to me the other day that her 15-year-old son is obsessed with it, and I said good, I want to see boys watching it too.
True.
It's not
Right.
just girls. So it really fascinates me though, because who would expect this to happen? And there's such love still, but it's such a good show.
It
Right.
Once you see
is.
it, you understand why.
Yes. We had a guest, gosh, the first year we started the podcast, Colleen,
Mm-hmm.
Valerie Campbell. She was a key set costume designer on Gilmore Girls. She made ice cream and she does a TikTok a bunch about different things about
Gilmore
the
Girls.
set and the Gilmore Girls and
Was this
continuity.
Valerie? Are you talking about
Yes,
Yes,
Valerie?
yes,
Valerie.
Yes,
Valerie.
yes. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
she's kind of carried the torch for us. Yeah, it's
yes.
funny 'cause she got involved in little summer events very early, and so
Right.
yeah, I know she's also very talented with the crafting and
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So
yeah.
and now that you have written the book and you're doing the press tour, what do you think is next for you? Because I love that you tell a story about how if you died on stage, that would be the way that you would want to go. But do you want to work for the next 20 years or do you want to kind of slow down your pace?
No, no, I'm not worried about slowing down. Actually, first of all, there's not that much work for old actors. So I grab what I can. But I know I have a little bit of a twisted take on that about dying on cue. I thought that would just be so cool. I mean, very gory, I know,
Very
but
macabre.
I don't think it'll happen. No, I want to work until the day I die. I do.
Mm.
I love working. It's harder now, I will admit. I find the same number of hours and television or film, you work long hours unless you have a special director who always stops at 5 or something. And it is harder, and I need more rest, and I just have to pace myself better. But I love working. I love acting. I love my fellow actors. I love meeting new people all the time. So I have no interest at all in stopping unless I said there's not that much work anyway. I've been fortunate this year. I've done a guest spot on a television series, and then Amy Sherman Palladino's new show that they're working on. It takes place in Paris and New York. I actually ended up doing 3 episodes of that. So that's yeah,
Wow.
that's good.
That
I'm excited.
What obviously keeps you sharp because you're very sharp.
Exactly.
So,
Oh, well,
yes.
thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
And you just the fact that the passion hasn't diminished at all, that that you truly found what you love to do and it has carried you through good times and bad times is such a wonderful story to share. And thank you for sharing that in the book as well. Thank you so much. Oh, and I would be remiss because they will ask all of us, why didn't we ask you this? Is there any chance for a Gilmore Girls restart,
What?
Another thing.
reboot,
Another thing.
another
Another?
season, another season, a year in the life or
There's any possibility is out there. I think the what would make the difference is, first of all, if Amy and Dan wanted to do it. I'm sure that they could find a studio and financing for it. That wouldn't be a problem. But then would Lauren want to do it? And would Alexis want to do it? I, of course, would do it. And I imagine a lot of the supporting actors would probably do it. But it really is relying on Lauren and Alexis because that's it. I don't know because we're all kind of moving on, but I'm always good to come back and revisit this. It's such, I'm just so proud of the show. I was proud of it when we were doing it, and I'm just amazed at the way it just keeps going and going, and new people discover it and get as much pleasure and comfort. Which I do think it's a sweet show, weirdly, a weird way to put it, but there's a real sweetness and goodness about this show. And I love that people are discovering that. It's something you can go and watch, not unlike Dirty Dancing, and you can feel very comfortable. There's not going to be any violence, there's not going to be any blood. You could just pay attention and get another laugh out of it that you missed the last time. So we'll see. I never say never.
Yeah, we certainly could use it. We could use it right
exactly.
now.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
please. Can we
yeah.
call someone? Do you have
Yeah,
Amy's
we
phone
could
number?
really use this. We could really use it now. So,
Well, we'll have a link to the book in our show notes. And I just, Bridget, and I want to thank you so much, Kelly,
yes.
for coming on the show. We appreciate your time. And it was just a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Well, you both are an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed myself. So thanks for having me on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.